The Lay of Beren and Luthien. The context for this, or maybe the whole story we can get from Dominic because he knows it better. The sad thing, the thing that's sad about this is that it never mentions the dog. But
Juan.
But the song is about the love of Beren and Luthien.
The entire song is, all I will say is that there is a tragic and yet beautiful happy ever after type of ending to them. And I will let your imagination begin to work for you as Ethan reads this poem.
The leaves were long, the grass was green, the hemlock on most tall and fair, and in the glade a light was seen, of stars and shadow shimmering. Tinuviel was dancing there, to music of a pipe unseen, and light of stars was in her hair, and in her raiment glimmering. There Beren came from mountains cold, and lost he wandered under leaves, and where the elven river rolled, he walked alone and sorrowing. He peered between the hemlock leaves, and saw in wonder flowers of gold upon her mantle and her sleeves, and her hair like shadow following. Enchantment healed his weary feet that over hills were doomed to roam, and forth he hastened strong and fleet, and grasped at moonbeams glistening. Through woven woods in elven home she lightly fled on dancing feet, and left him lonely still to roam in the silent forest, listening. He heard there oft the flying sound of feet as light as linden leaves, or music welling underground in hidden hollows quavering. Now withered lay the hemlock sheaves, and one by one with sighing sound, whispering fell the beechen leaves, in the wintry woodland wavering. He sought her ever, wandering far, where leaves of years were thickly strewn, by light of moon and ray of star, in frosty heaven shivering. Her mantle glinted in the moon, as on a hilltop high and far, she danced, and as her feet was strewn, a mist of silver quivering. When winter passed she came again, and her song released the sudden spring, like rising lark and falling rain, and melting water bubbling. He saw the elven flowers spring about her feet, and healed again. He longed by her to dance and sing upon the grass untroubling. Again she fled, but swift he came. Tinuviel, he called her by her elvish name. And there she halted listening. One moment stood she, and a spell his voice laid on her Beren came, and doom fell on Tinuviel, that in his arms lay glistening. As Beren looked into her eyes, within the shadows of her hair, the trembling starlight of the skies he saw there mirrored shimmering. Tinuviel the elven fair, immortal maiden elven wise, about him cast her shadowy hair, and her arms like silver glistening. Long was the way that fate them bore, o'er stony mountains cold and grey, through halls of iron and darkening door, and woods of nightshade morrowless. The sundering seas between them lay, and yet at last they met once more. And long ago they passed away in the forest, singing sorrowless. So we do see there a tragic and yet beautiful ending. And there was, I forget what the name of the Greek myth is that Tolkien was actually drawing upon when he wrote the tale of Beren and Luthien.
I wouldn't know.
But there is this old Greek myth of an elderly couple. They've been married for quite some time. And the gods come in human form disguised. And each of them puts this couple through a different test. I think at one point Aphrodite comes and tries to tempt the husband, and he rejects her. Somebody else, I think Zeus comes, tries to tempt the wife. She rejects him. Apollo comes, and they offer him hospitality. He dressed as a beggar. They offer him hospitality. And then the couple die. And they go to the gods. And this is not normally how death works in Greek mythology. But these people are particular, and they are special. And Zeus sits before them, and he says, "You have exemplified perfect virtue. What is it that you desire of us? We will grant you a reward, even something so great as a place among our midst. We will help you become gods ourselves." And the couple reply, "All we want is to spend eternity together." And they are granted that. They are granted their own home in Elysium, so that they can spend their eternity together, or their love for one another. And Tolkien was drawing on that when he wrote the story of Beren and Luthien, which he condensed in the song.
Yeah.
Because that's how Tolkien did a lot. Most of the lore in the Silmarillion is referenced in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but it's done so in song. So Tolkien writes the lore, and then he writes a song about it. Because apparently just writing the lore, straight exposition is not good enough for Tolkien. It has to be in song. But that is how most people have preserved their people's lore for the longest time.
Yeah.
Has been in song and fairy stories.
Well, it's the most fitting. I mean, look at the Field of Cormallen. Right after the ring is destroyed, more or less, I shall sing the lay of Frodo of the Nine Fingers in the Ring of Doom. Because y'all need a song to...
Yeah, we need a song
remember
about
this
this now. Yeah.
It's memorable. It's performative. It does, without doing justice to the acts that it references, it does justice to them.
Yeah. And if I was to just recite this, I find it much easier to memorize something when it is put to music.
Mm-hmm. So
And
go listen to that song in the description.
yes, go listen to the song in the description and then memorize it because it's fantastic. I remember when I was a wee pup and I was learning poetry in school and I was reciting poetry, learning to memorize it and everything. I figured out that if I spoke the poetry rhythmically and almost sang it, I memorized it much better. Which basically led into me being a 10-year-old rapping "Oh Captain, My Captain." But it's the nature of poetry. And the nature of song.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you turn poetry into song, then it actually adds that rhythmic and that musical element. You also have a melody to remember, which is not the same kind of thing as remembering the lyrics. Or just remembering words by themselves.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
I'm sorry if you can hear that. My daughter has a sore throat, and she's woken up twice now terrified of something.
Aww.
Probably having bad dreams, and she's not feeling well, and my wife is in there helping her out.
I think that is part of family living. And I think that is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And if you, the listener, have a problem with that, just screw off, unsubscribe if you're subscribed. We don't need you.
Yeah, but I don't want your subscription if you're annoyed by hearing my daughter cry in the background.
Mm-hmm. So, that's just what I say.
Family that isn't crying is dying. But I want to look at a few other, a couple of other things in this poem. So just the way that this works as a story poem, and had I had the opportunity the year I was teaching, I was actually going to use this to teach my students a thing or two about poetry. But Tolkien gives us really good illustration of setting. So in the first line he says, "The leaves were long, the grass was green, the hemlock umbels tall and fair." So what time of year is that? That's summer.
Summer. No.
Right. It's not spring. If it was spring, the leaves would be new. And the hemlock umbels would be short and dull. But this is summertime. And Tinuviel is just dancing. She's dancing in a glade because she's an elf maiden and she's just very happy to be alive.
Mm-hmm. The cynic in you would say, what else would you do when you're immortal? And the simpleton, the good simpleton in you would say, what better thing is there to do when you're immortal? So.
Exactly. And then Beren comes along, and he's lost. It says he came from mountains cold, so He's probably not in a great mood.
I can interject and add context to that. I forget the name of the mountain range, but he's come from the north. His tribe was basically one that was resisting Morgoth. Mm-hmm. They were doing guerrilla warfare, basically, and one of their own betrayed them. Mm. And Beren essentially escapes, gets out of there, and he passes through, it might be the mountains of Gorgoroth, not the Gorgoroth of Mordor. I forget the name. But basically, they're the Mountains of Terror. He passes through the area where Ungoliant's children are just about and have the nest to themselves.
Oh boy.
Like, it puts Cirith Ungol to shame in
so
terms of
that's
the
like
amount of horror of that place.
Shelob's brood that you see, but every spider is the size of Shelob.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a truly gosh darn horrifying place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he comes through that. And then he comes into the woods of Doriath. And the king and queen of Doriath are Thingol and Melian. And Melian is a Maiar.
And Thingol is an elf.
Yeah. And she has woven basically a protection spell around the place so that nobody may find their way in. But she does prophesy, I think she prophesies that like somebody's going to make it through. So Beren...
Here's the trick. Beren wasn't trying to find his way in. He was lost. He was trying to get out.
He was wandering. And he was... Well, how would you be if you came through that place and lived and survived? As a man of great strength and honor. But still.
And you're the only one.
Yeah.
You're the only one left of your tribe.
You're the only one left. Horror, grief, a weariness of ages and ages.
Like, imagine being the last Spartan left alive at Thermopylae.
Yeah, and imagine passing through untold horrors after that, and then coming upon some sort of oasis. But just imagine your mode of being before you get to the oasis.
Yeah.
Like you're just stumbling about, and yeah, my goodness.
And then you come across this glade, which is basically a woodland clearing, where there's no trees, there's only grass and flowers. And the most beautiful woman in the world is dancing. Just dancing. Like Julie Andrews' Sound of Music. Dancing in a field of flowers. If any women are watching this, let us know if you've ever had an urge to dance in a field of flowers. And if you haven't, and you're having trouble finding men, go try it.
It's worth trying. It's worth trying.
Frolicking. That's what Tinuviel is doing. She's frolicking. But she's not doing it, what's the word I'm looking for? She's not doing it frivolously. She's just happy to be alive. And why wouldn't you dance when the world around you is beautiful?
I mean, is that not the best form of frivolity?
That's like good frivolity. Yeah. The good equivalent of frivolity. And then you've been through exactly what Beren has been through, and you have basically seen the exact polar opposite. Why would you not be immediately entranced and completely in love? Like, imagine, I think in modern equivalents, imagine just say you're a soldier or a Marine. Your entire unit has just been killed because you were betrayed. You're the only one that manages to make it out of there. So on top of the survivor's guilt, which we know is a real thing, you have the horrors of everything that you have seen. Like, not only are you the only one left alive, you have to make it out of hostile territory by yourself. And we'll just say, for some reason, it's Australia.
Okay.
Where everything living wants to kill you.
All right.
Either Australia or someplace in the jungles of Africa, where not a single leaf is safe. I mean, when you see a giant snake swallow a water buffalo whole, that does stuff to you.
Fair.
That's kind of horrifying. Or when you see a Komodo dragon swallow a baby goat whole and you can hear it screaming from the Komodo dragon's stomach, that does stuff to you.
Yeah.
And then you come home. and you either come home or you make it to some place that is safe. And the first thing you see in that safe place is the most beautiful woman that you've ever seen dancing gracefully. Would you not be completely in love? Dancing gracefully in such a way, basically as bad and horrible and frightening as all that was, that's how beautiful this woman is. Beautiful and graceful and kind. Would you not just be completely in love?
Absolutely.
Everybody would be. So, of course, Beren's immediate reaction is just to call out to her. But
she vanishes.
She vanishes. She lightly fled on dancing feet. But she lightly fled on dancing feet. It's playful. So she wants the chase. She's not frightened of him. This is sort of a teasing. Because all we ever get is Beren's perspective. We don't get Luthien's perspective.
So you've lowered my opinion of Luthien now because she's an elf, and so this is just pure cruelty.
And she's seeing a man who is probably, I don't know, he probably hasn't bathed in some time. He's probably covered in dirt and blood, and his hair's a mess. His clothes are probably torn. And he calls out to her, but she's for some reason not frightened of him. And instead she decides to just sort of playfully dance away.
I wonder if she is scared of him. It's hard to say.
It says she lightly fled on dancing feet. She was dancing.
But he didn't call out to her. So it's possible that she didn't see him, and that it was more of a vision than anything else.
It says, enchantment healed his weary feet that over hills were doomed to roam, and forth he hastened strong and fleet, and grasped at moonbeams glistening. So he didn't call out to her, he just, charged her.
The idea of her being a vision who doesn't notice him fits with the later part of the poem.
He's reaching out.
I'm not saying you're wrong either.
She is a living vision. He reaches out for something, because when all you have seen is horror, you will reach out to beauty.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And he heard there off the flying sound of feet as light as linden leaves, music welling underground and hidden hollows quavering. So he comes back because he wants to see her again. And she's echoing.
Yeah.
He knows that she has been there.
Yeah,
whether this is a literal, elven magic echo, or this is the song of a heart. Because he is completely in love with this woman. He doesn't know her name. He has never spoken to her. He has only ever seen her. But he is in love. Because he has seen her dance. So whether this is some elven magic that is keeping her voice in the wood, or whether the song is in his heart, and every time he comes to that glade, he is remembering what it was like to hear her bare feet pat her on the ground while she danced.
Well, it's heard there off the flying sound, a fleet as light as linden leaves, and a music welling underground, in hollows wavering. He is hearing it in everything around him.
Yeah, and he cannot get rid of it.
Yeah.
And then at the winter time, he goes looking for her. She's not here. Where is she?
Yeah, because, oh, by the way, it's now winter.
Yeah. Went from summer to winter. Through the entire autumn, he is coming to this place. And months, he is coming to this place and waiting for her. Just hoping and praying that she will show up again. He sought her ever wandering far where leaves of years were thickly strewn, by light of moon and ray of star and frosty heavens shimmering. So, he's looking everywhere that he thinks she could possibly be. Then when winter passed, she came again, and her song released the sudden spring. She is so full of life, and light, and love, and laughter, and joy, that she makes the flowers bloom. Gentlemen, find a woman whose smile can make the flowers bloom. I remember when I was at school, you have to be poetic about these things, because I remember when I was in college, and our university had a beautiful view across the Missouri River. gorgeous sunsets every night. There was one night the sunset was particularly good. And Homer in the Odyssey frequently remembers dawn with her rose-red fingers. And as I was walking, I'm looking at the sunset. And I'm brought to... What is brought to mind is Homer's vision of dawn with her rose-red fingers. Which, if you've seen the right conditions for dawn, you know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what that means, the rose-red fingers of dawn. And as the sun is setting, the sky is alight. Vibrant orange and yellow and red, like fire. And in my mind, the first thing I can think of is, if dawn has rosy fingers, then dusk has fiery heels. And then my heart responded and said, the woman that you find will have eyes as soft as the rosy fingers of dawn, and a smile more radiant than the fiery heels of dusk.
The soft welcome and
the softness of dawn and the radiance of dusk.
And the fiery joy.
And I did. My wife has eyes as soft as the rosy fingers of dawn, and a smile as brilliant as the fiery heels of dusk.
It's amazing.
Find the woman that you can write poetry about. Or find the woman who fits the poetry in your heart. For Beren, the shadows of her hair and the trembling starlight of the skies, he saw their mirrored shimmering. Shadowy hair and arms like silver.
I mean, that's the best form of cuddling that will ever be.
I mean, yeah,
right
it
there.
is.
That entire stanza. As Beren looked into her eyes within the shadows of her hair,
I also like
the
the
trembling
fact...
starlight of the skies, he saw their mirrored shimmering. To Nuviel, the fair and mortal maiden elven-wise, about him cast her shadowy hair, and arms like silver glimmering. Men, do this with your wives, don't do it with them beforehand.
I don't think that's where it's going. I don't think that's what he meant. I think he's talking about a literal embrace.
I'm just aware of the fact that I'm on YouTube and there's a bunch of schmucks that are out there. That's
the
all.
point. This is the internet. But this is also what I want to see when Winter Pasture came again. So once she returns, so it takes until the springtime for her to return to that same glade. He longed by her to dance and sing upon the grass untroubling. I don't care if you dance or not. You will want to dance with your wife.
Yeah.
You will want to dance with her. Do you know why? Because she will complete you. I know that's a corny thing to say, but you know what? Corn will never die.
Nope. Cliches are cliches because they're true.
You want to dance with her because it is... I can't even express it in words. You just want to dance with her. And the urge may just come upon you. The trope that we see in television is that it's always from the woman. It's like, come on, let's dance. And then the husband's like, oh, no, I don't want to. That's wrong. You will want to dance. And you will love every second of dancing with her and looking into her eyes. But there's a stanza here that I do want to talk about specifically. Again she fled, but swift he came. So he goes to her again. By the way, she knows that he has been looking for her. Because women know these things. They have ways of knowing these things. This is flirtatious. Her fleeing from him is meant to be flirtatious. I recently saw a clip from a podcast. I don't remember what podcast it was. But of a man pointing out something that I had forgotten about. That a man is supposed to chase a woman. But she is supposed to let him know that she wants to be chased. She is supposed to tease him. There was an old tradition, this goes back well over a century, where a woman would, to flirt with a man, she would drop her handkerchief in front of him. Or she'd drop her gloves. She would drop something of hers in front of him. Because it is the courteous and the chivalric thing to do to pick it up and give it back to her. Maybe brush it off a little bit if it's gotten a little bit dirty. Pick it up and give it back. And it got to the point where this is... There is an Abbott and Costello bit where Lou is just walking down the street And he's at a co-ed college, a women's college, where they're not permitted to date or flirt with men. And like three women just like drop their handkerchiefs in front of him in a row. And he, not even thinking, just like bends down and goes to pick it up. Not even reciprocating the flirting, but just because he's a nice guy. And some like security guard or policeman comes over and beats him with a club every time he does it. But that's the way it used to be, is that a woman actually told the man that she wanted to be pursued. That women want to be pursued and men want to pursue. So ladies, if you're having a hard time with the guy you like, if he's not picking up on your hints, quit hinting and tell him. Mm-hmm. You need to make it a lot more obvious. Because we're also men of a generation that have been told that if you look at a woman cross-eyed, you'll probably go to jail.
It turns out that flirting can go both ways and should go both ways.
Yes.
It turns out that initial pursuit should go both ways.
Yes.
You know?
But basically, the dropping of the handkerchief or of the gloves or of the handbag or whatever is, I want you to pursue me. I'm dropping it very obviously, deliberately in front of you. Because I want you to pick it up and give it to me so I have a reason to talk to you. Because back then it wasn't you just walk up to a woman and start talking to her. That's brash. And actually very impolite. Because for the longest time, a proper introduction is for a mutual friend to introduce you to each other. It used to be, hey, Phil, this is my friend Esther. Esther, this is my friend Phil. You two kids get to know each other. I'm going to go over here.
Or the handkerchief.
And then at about, 6 weeks, Phil and Esther are married. And they somehow have 12 kids in 5 days. Nobody knows how that worked.
Fair enough.
But I wanted to also point out that the last two lines of the stanza are, and doom fell onto Nuviel, that in his arms lay glimmering. If you are somebody that hears that and then goes, date, I want you away from my podcast. But actually, first, I want you to stay and listen to me.
Yeah, I have the nerdy explanation, but I'm going to hear
My
yours
wife
first.
just did this off to the side. She's going to keep her mouth shut. I understand why you might think that. If we're talking about literal doom, there's a lot of lore behind that, for one thing. Of doom falling onto Nuviel. For one thing, she's an elf, she's immortal. He's a man, he's not. So for her to choose him means for her to choose mortality. That is doom. But also just in sort of a poetic sense, there is something of a pleasant doom that befalls a woman when she falls in love with a man. Would you say that, dear? My wife is nodding, so she is a representative of all women, and no woman can ever argue with her.
Okay.
But there's a kind of pleasant doom that befalls a woman. Because there is a sort of pain and a sort of suffering that comes with loving a man that you're not married to. Am I right again? Because you aren't sure if he'll stay or if he'll leave. Yeah. The end goal is the scariest part.
The scariest part in what sense?
Because you don't know. You don't know what the end is going to be. Now, I was very upfront with her when we started dating. I said this will end one of two ways. We will either break up or we will get married. And that will happen rather quickly. Now, we were dating for 6 months. Yeah, for 6 months. And we got engaged. 6. Our first official date was Valentine's Day, and we got engaged on August 14th, which is the eve of the
Feast of the Assumption.
Feast of the Assumption. Thank you. I'm earning husband points right now because I just remembered the dates that were the dates of our first date and when we were engaged. But anyway, I digress. Doom fell onto Nuviel that in his arms lay glistening. It's over for her. No more independence. Especially when you know the story of what happens to Beren and Luthien. Which is tragic but beautiful at the very end at the same time, because that is the only story in the Silmarillion that has an actual positive ending.
It's, tragic but beautiful just Go read the summary.
It's like tragic, and then it's good.
I only
Everything
have
else
certain
is okay and good, and then it's tragic.
I only have certain comments after you finish. They don't include a full recounting of that tale. So, just folks, go read the summary.
Yeah, basically the entire tale of Beren and Luthien. So Tolkien has here extended the first paragraph of the tale in the Silmarillion into however many stanzas that is.
And the rest is hinted at.
8 stanzas, and then the rest of the story is hinted at in the very last stanza.
Mm-hmm.
Because what he's talking about here, because the context for this is that Aragorn has said that he will tell the tale of Tenuviel in brief. So there's also an implication here that Aragorn just came up with this song as an abbreviated version of the full tale.
The last stanza, yeah, maybe.
Because the hobbits have been begging him to tell them stories from the old days. And he thinks of Beren and Luthien, the tale of Tenuviel. And this is mentioned in the films briefly in the extended versions. Frodo comes up to Aragorn and asks him what he's singing because he's singing something in Elvish, and it's this tale. The implication is because he's thinking of Arwen. That's also a perfectly reasonable thing to do because he's a man in love with an elf. In love with an elf maid who, in his opinion, is his Luthien. And by the way, on Tolkien's headstone, it says Beren, and on his wife's, it says Luthien. If that tells you anything about what the professor thought of his wife. His wife, he thought of as the immortal maiden Elvenwise.
That is how all men ought to think of their wives.
How we ought to think of our wives, yes. Remember, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and laid down his life for her. Nothing in there Tolkien would ever disagree with.
Oh, no.
But now go listen to the song because Clamavi de Profundis takes that and then adds the musical element to it and so accurately reflects the tone of the stanzas, which changes throughout the poem with the tone of the music in the background. And it's just...
It's amazing.
It's fantastic.